I think that was a big surprise for a lot of women. They'd say, oh, I don't need XYZ products because I'm through menopause. Well, you're really still in menopause.
Let's talk menopause. It's something that affects every woman all over the world. It's also something that all women experience and live with for 30 to 40% of their lives. Our guest today is Sally Mueller of Womaness, where they have created an amazing community. They are educating and helping women understand menopause, understand and embrace the change in their bodies, and provide incredible clean products to allow us to live fully and to age well. Sally and her team are trailblazers that are modernizing aging. They are helping us navigate the changes in our bodies, and they're keeping us unstoppable. Let's face it, they're helping us get shit done. Let's jump into the conversation today with Sally Mueller. Sally Mueller of Womaness. Welcome to the GSD Factor podcast. I'm so excited to have you on.
Oh, thanks, Misha. I'm so excited to be on as well.
So we're going to dive into the topic of menopause and the amazing products that you and your team have pulled together and curated. But then we're also going to talk about the female founder entrepreneurial journey. And we will definitely put links to all of these amazing products in our show notes. But I have my two favorites here, Let's Neck and The Works. So these are definitely near and dear to my heart. I never have a day without them. But let's dive in a little bit and talk about womaness and menopause. But before we do that, tell our listeners just a little bit about your amazing journey and how you got all the way to this point with Womaness.
Yeah, well, I like to say Womaness is kind of my third pivot in my career. And I think the best careers are zigzag, where you're not going necessarily linear, vertical, like you're going back and forth and maybe learning different aspects of the business. And all those experiences just make you a better founder, better executive, better leader in the end. So I started my career at Target and I was there for 25 years. I was a merchant. I was a marketer, always in apparel, but worked a lot on the brand level of Target. So the Bullseye campaign and all of those exciting campaigns that really put Target on the map. And learned a lot about product development, of course, trend forecasting, consumer touch points, like how to stay ahead of the consumer, and also how to relate to the consumer, through all of the different, recession and all the different ups and downs that consumers go through. So it was a really exciting career. And I decided at 45 to leave. So I resigned and started my own business. So I wanted to build brands for women. And so in the next 12 years, I actually took Who What Wear from a digital company into a line of product with the founders of Who What Wear. And it was really successful. We launched it at Target. We took it overseas. We just kept expanding it. It was just a beautiful line of fashion. And I miss it so much because it's not in Target anymore. And then I also worked with, by then I went in-house at Who What Wear, and we created Versed, which is a clean skincare brand. So very affordable, very ahead of its time because it was really, launched in 2018 when clean beauty was just beginning to be on the forefront. So I'm always thinking about like, what's the trend? Where are we at in like the trend cycle? Where's the consumer? Are they, I always want to be kind of pre-peak. So Womaness really came about. Again, it was the third part of my career because of my own personal journey through menopause. And I started going through perimenopause in my late 40s. I would say my experience is very, very common with a lot of women, but at the time I had no idea that the symptoms I was experiencing were related to menopause. I thought it was just stress and travel. And I didn't realize like low libido had to do with vaginal dryness, which has to do with the drop in estrogen. And I wasn't connecting the dots. So when I finally saw a doctor, she educated me about menopause, which was incredible because a lot of doctors are not comfortable or educated themselves in menopause, but this woman was. And then at the end of the appointment, she gave me a list of products to try on Amazon. And that was when I thought, oh my gosh, women like me deserve better than this. And it was just like a lack of modern brands, clean formulations. It was kind of like the same old products like on the dusty bottom shelf at your local retailer. And I knew her taste level was very high, but there were no options in the market.
Mm.
So that was kind of my aha moment for thinking women deserve better than this. And now is the time to really figure out how to create like a modern solution. So my friend Michelle and I decided to do this together. And, Womaness is all about innovative products, inspiration in the form of the brand ethos and the community. And then, of course, education. Women need to really understand a lot more about their bodies. And so we've really invested in a lot of great educational information from leading doctors and experts. And we're constantly talking about the educational part of menopause as well. So,
You're such an inspirational trailblazer, always thinking about, what is that being ahead of that trend, as
yeah.
you said. But what I appreciate is as you have identified a need and you get shit done, but you also then envelop it in this education and awareness
Mhm.
and the importance of why. And
Right.
so let's talk about some of those things in menopause that we're not aware of, and that you guys actually talk to your consumers. You have
Yeah.
medical professionals that are talking to consumers. Medical professionals are part of your team, your
Right.
advisors, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So, Sally, what are some of those menopause awareness pieces of information that you want our listeners to walk away from? And it's not just the female listeners, right? It's our male listeners too, because
Yeah.
they have females in their lives, and if they can care for them and educate them and bring about this, I think that is huge, and for them to be a champion of women in that way as well.
Yeah. Well, I think just some of the basic facts around menopause. So, perimenopause is the first stage, which lasts usually, I think, 4 to 7 years on average. And usually a woman is in her 40s during this time, but it can happen in your 30s. It can also happen later. So each woman, has a different experience. It's a very personal experience. And you're in perimenopause until you have 12 consecutive months without a period. And once you have that, no period for 12 months, then you're technically in menopause. And menopause is really just like that moment in time. And then the rest of that time period becomes postmenopause. And you are postmenopausal until you leave the earth. I think that was a big surprise for a lot of women. They'd say, oh, I don't need XYZ product because I'm through menopause. Well, you're really still in menopause. The average woman is in menopause 30 to 40% of her life. Can you believe it? I didn't know
Wow.
that until I started, being educated by the doctors that work with us. And so that was pretty shocking. I think the other thing is there's like over 45 symptoms of menopause. I think Dr. Haver has even talked about well over that. So the list is counting. There's so much research that's being done as well
Mhm.
around the stage of life because it's been so underfunded. The research has been so underfunded. So there's a lot more symptoms than you think. It's not just hot flashes. In fact, that isn't even the number one symptom women complain about. It could be low libido, irritability, depression, weight gain is a big issue. Hot flashes is kind of like 10th. because not all women have hot flashes. But if women have hot flashes, it can be devastating. It can just really set them back, so that's a little bit about just the basics of menopause. I think there's also so much misinformation about hormone therapy. So there was a study done in 2002 that was called the Health Initiative. And I won't get into details, but it's basically a study that came out with it kind of instilling the fear of cancer if you're on hormone therapy. And basically, the study was flawed in how they read the data and a lot about that study. But it set women back 22 years because it's not, honestly. So when I was going through menopause, my mom was just adamant that I not go on hormone therapy because she was worried about the cancer implications. And that was so wrong. There's so much more information about the benefits of hormone therapy now. So even though our products do not contain hormones, we are big proponents of hormone therapy. And we believe that you can use our products along with hormone therapy. And it's best to have hormone therapy, obviously from a medical professional. And so that's why we work very hand in hand in promoting the benefits of hormone therapy along with our product line.
That's amazing. And I think what is so important is we're highlighting the fact that, menopause has been underfunded, under-researched.
Yeah.
And yet it is part of every woman's life for 30 to 40% of their lives. And
I
that's
know.
such an incredible stat. And yet so many women won't talk about it, right? I think if you say the M word, they're like, oh my gosh, you just said that word. And I'm like, let's talk about it. And I think that just using our voice, I talk about within the GST Factor life of having that confidence and that influence to say our voice is our strongest weapon. Let's talk about it. Let's expose it. And and let's have the conversations about it. I feel like we can meet women wherever they're at in their journeys and meet them where they're at from their comfort level. But I think also what's important is for them to know they're not alone, right? Like these are not symptoms that you have to suffer through yourself. There's kind of this overarching understanding of menopause, but then each of us, our journeys are different because we are unique. And so what does that journey look like? And I think it's amazing what Womaness is doing, not just providing such quality, clean products, but also the education and the awareness and the medical component of that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we love, when we first set out, we said we have to change the conversation around the stage of life and not make it, shameful or ignored or painful. And even since we launched 4 years ago, the conversation has really changed and it continues to change. So I think, even
you're making an impact.
Yeah. Well, we like to think we're making an impact, but it takes all of us, right? Like even this conversation, you're opening up the comfort level. Hopefully some of your listeners are like, yeah, why don't I talk about it? It's so when we've had events and we have women attend those events, it takes one person. I might get up and tell my story. Michelle tells her story, and then all of a sudden floodgates open.
Yes.
And women do want to talk about it in the end. And I think that's what's great, and I think just that's been the huge watershed moment of and why this movement is really taking storm, because the consumer does want to talk about it.
Yes. What I loved about how you started is that you talked about this was your third pivot. And I think as women in our careers, there are lots of zigzags. And if there's not a zigzag, there are a few of us that have not had zigzags, let's put it that way. So let's pivot our conversation into, Sally as the co-founder and the CEO of Womaness. And what has that journey been like as a female founder who is, who is founded a company, is a CEO, is raising.
Mhm.
And let's talk about that journey because, you have these two incredible journeys. One, you're bringing about this awareness and the conversation and the
Mhm.
safe space for the conversation around menopause. But now let's also put your business hat on and
Yeah.
talk about you as a female founder and an entrepreneur.
It's my favorite part. Um, so I think, it's been really eye-opening to start a business after turning 50. It's been so good because you're a lot more confident, I think. You've had so many life experiences, whether it's negotiating contracts and hiring and firing people and all of the things that go into running a business, you've probably done before, right?
Right. And you have a level
Uh,
of resiliency that
yes, you
fresh
do.
ones don't.
Right, right. So I think in that respect, I'm so glad that I waited to do this until I was older and just more assured of myself, had more life experiences under my belt. But I don't want to discourage younger women from also doing this because I think the key is to also have a network of support. And really, what I think I've done is build that over time. So some of the people that I worked with at Target or I worked with after Target, they're big supporters. I can lean on them. Obviously, I've met so many new amazing people like you and our investors, and I can lean. I mean, when you think about the network of support that Michelle and I have around us, and I think one of my key messages is always to build that network and invest in it, nurture it, and really give back to it every step of your career because you never know when you're going to pivot and you're going to need to lean on some of those people or hire some of those people. When I say lean, sometimes it's just a matter of like, hey, I need to get your advice on something. Or do you know someone that does XYZ? Or you want to even hire them. So it's been amazing to just have that support system around us. I think that's so critical as you step into like a really new space, and become like a full-fledged entrepreneur.
I think that's such wisdom and guidance because I
Mhm.
think when you are an entrepreneur, it can be lonely unless you
Yeah,
have that support system, unless you
right.
have that network. In my books, I talk about you need that clan for that
Yeah,
personal life, and you need that
right.
insider sword for your professional
Yeah,
life.
I love
And I
that.
think that it's real, and it takes time, right? This is not like go out and get a bunch of followers. This is
Right,
building those relationships, nurturing them, engaging with them, the highs, the lows, and it's not just sharing the good times, it's sharing the bad
right,
times
right.
because it's those moments that really exercise our resiliency to say,
Mhm.
okay, this is certainly a grow moment for me. We
Right.
talk about in our family our glow and our grow
Yeah,
moments. So,
yeah, I love that.
what is this grow moment going to look
Mhm.
like? And then you're going to have those glows. And I think that there are glows and grows for every entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so 4 years ago and now today, let's
Mhm.
highlight a little bit about where Womaness is now 4 years into this incredible journey.
Oh, well, we are, I think our brand, obviously, we've worked really hard on just the brand itself and making sure that women feel invited into the brand. The imagery, the voice of the brand is very much like a girlfriend giving advice. Um, and we've cultivated, as you know, um, just a network of really great experts around us as well, the doctors that we work with and the variety of experts, because again, with all these symptoms, you need a lot of different perspectives too,
Mhm.
or areas of expertise. So, um, we're really proud of the content that we've created, all the educational information, the blog that we, put out. And I really encourage your audience to check that out. And I think just the community of women that are a part of this brand, I'm so proud of that. And these women are from all over the US, Canada, the UK, and they're from all walks of life,
Mhm.
So we talk to our customers. So we know that she's from all over, and some of them are from small towns, some of them are from large cities, and they all have needs, right?
Mhm.
So it's been really rewarding to know that you're helping women. We're also really proud of the fact that we have grown. We launched at Ulta Beauty a couple years ago. They've been tremendous partners. Ulta's been very supportive of women's wellness, and not just our brand, but all of the brands in that space that they've curated. And we just recently launched at Walmart. So
Congratulations.
super excited about that, and just being available to, so many women in the US now through a Walmart, distribution and over 1,000 stores. So we're really proud of just the accessibility, the opportunity to get the message out to more and more people. And that's what in the next several years, that's our goal, is to just continue to do well in those channels, but also expand and just make sure that every woman knows what their options are.
Yes.
I think so many women are suffering still in silence, and they don't really know who to trust.
Mhm.
They can't maybe get, the right doctor lined up, or they don't know, should I take this supplement, or what should I do? Should I be on hormone therapy? So we think our role is to help knit that whole solution together, which isn't just our products, but the whole solution. So
Incredible. And,
thank you.
really appreciate how, again, it's not just a product, it's the changing the
Yeah.
conversation, bringing it about, trailblazing in that way.
Yeah.
When you think about your entrepreneurial hat, right, as a co-founder of Womaness, if you were to tell your younger self a piece of advice about launching and founding your own company, what is that one piece of advice you wish your younger self could have heard before embarking on this entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I'm definitely more of a type A person, if you haven't noticed. Um, but I think just my advice would be to not fret so much at
Mm.
some of the challenges. I definitely took a lot of stress
Mm.
on, especially with fundraising and going through that right now. So I know what it's like, but it's like everything does kind of work itself out, and you can't get so down or distracted from some of those tougher moments, because it all evens out in the end. And I'm not saying not to take it seriously or work hard through it, but you do kind of have to have that, as you say, resilience
Mm.
and positive attitude that, hey, we have a great idea here. We have products that women love. You kind of go
Mhm.
back to the basics. Like, we'll get
Yes.
through this. It's
You
not
have to
like,
trust the process. The
yeah, you
process
do have to
has to.
trust the process, and you have
Yes.
to trust the people that you're in the process with.
Yes.
Or you're not maybe working with the right people. Um, but and everything takes longer than you think,
Imagine.
in that you
Yes.
imagine. So that's also been something I would tell my younger self, is like, because now I just turned 60. I don't think when I started Womaness, I thought I would still be doing this at 60. I thought, oh, I'll be, who knows what, I didn't really, well, I don't even know if I thought about it, but I'm just saying, once you get into this too, you're in
Yes.
it.
Yes.
And you have to keep your stamina up. So you can't let every tough situation kind of set you back. Otherwise,
Right.
you're going to just be exhausted. And so I've done a better job lately of, whether it's taking a bike ride after work, or really, I have a lot of hobbies. So I like to put time into those hobbies too, because that's
Mhm.
a distraction.
Yes.
And it's almost like therapy, in a different way. So I think that's important, that you don't give everything up when you start these businesses. You have to still have your own life.
Yes. It's work. I like to call it work-life family integration.
Yeah.
And
You're
it's
so good at all these themes and buzzwords. Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you. And it's when we find, what is that right integration? And the integration today may be different from the
Yeah,
integrations, how the integrations balance out tomorrow. But it's, I personally don't care for the work life balance because nothing's ever really balanced.
I
But
know.
I prefer to say, okay, work life family integration and what it looks
I
like
love that.
today is going to be different than tomorrow or next
Yeah.
year. But it allows us that flexibility to be able to understand the priority system I use with a lot of my clients and mentees is the idea of now, next, and later. And so when you think about your life as an entrepreneur, you can't burn out because because
Yeah.
so much is riding on you. And so when you think about that work life family integration, think about those priorities of
Yeah.
now, next, and
I
later.
love that.
And I love that because it's agile, it's very flexible. Now could be today, next could be tomorrow, or now is this, quarter, next is next
Yeah.
quarter,
Yeah.
later is, but you can be flexible with it. And I think as female founders and
Mhm.
female entrepreneurs, part of that now, next, later also needs to incorporate that time for us to replenish
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
recharge because if we are not filled up, we can't continue to pour out
Right.
into either our
Right.
businesses or our
You're
families or our
absolutely right.
community. And what you guys are doing with Womaness is not just about products. It's about changing the conversation and
Mhm.
bringing about those conversations even, to the forefront and being
Mhm.
that trailblazer and advocating for us women
Mhm. Yeah.
and so there's almost a little bit more of that pressure on you all because it's not just a product or a company, it is
Mhm.
this movement
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
menopause and just getting more awareness out there. And so appreciate your words of wisdom around that
Oh,
because I think that's such a great reminder as female founders that we all have to make sure that we are making that time for those hobbies and those
yeah.
recharge moments.
Yeah. And our family, of course. I'm an empty nester now, so I have, less responsibility overseeing my kids, but
Yes.
now I'm very involved with my mom who, is now a widow. So it's that sandwich generation. So you
Yes.
can't probably you just have to do the trade-offs, right? You have to,
Yep.
shift your focus to your parents while your kids need less time from you. So it's like, but not forgetting about yourself. And like you said, the recharging that needs to happen in order to have the stamina to keep going.
Yes. We are women that wear many hats and we
Right.
are
Right.
getting shit done. Sally, it has been such an honor to have you on, and I'm
Oh,
so
thanks, Tisha.
excited to share your story with the world. And thank you for all that you're doing in both creating these amazing products, like I said, my two favorites, the Works and my Let's Neck, but then also just the education. I have learned so much from you, from your team.
Mhm.
You guys are you're on the front line with us. We can reach out at any time, which is incredible. And thank you for changing changing the story and changing the
Mhm.
conversation. We so appreciate you. Are there any final moments or thoughts that you'd love to leave with our listeners?
Well, I think the other thing is just, we've talked a lot about menopause, but it's also a really exciting time in a woman's life. I think when I look back, I left Target when I was 45, and I think perimenopause was definitely happening at that point. And so a lot of women decide when they start to go through the stage to do something new, fresh, exciting. So I just want to encourage your listeners to embrace it. It is a challenging time, a lot of days and a lot of hours, but in the end, a lot of women are really excited about this stage of life. And it brings a lot of renaissance and excitement as well. So just be
Lean
open
into the
minded.
zig.
Yeah, lean into the zig and, just talk about it. Like you said, open up the conversation and become educated, and that will make the whole experience much easier.
Awesome. Sally, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you all to our listeners for listening to today's episode of the GSD Factor podcast. And don't forget to get shit done. Thank you for listening to the GSD Factor podcast. I'm your host, Misha Blaymeyer-Farish. Be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, as I love connecting with our listeners to hear how you are getting shit done in your personal and professional life. Be sure to visit our website at gsdfactor.com, where you can take a persona assessment that's going to help you figure out what type of GSDer you are. There's also a ton of resources and tools for both yourself and your tiny humans in your life. We appreciate you rating and subscribing our podcast episode today. And don't forget to get shit done.